Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of I Am Christina DiArcangelo. I'm so excited to be here today for a lot of reasons. But first off, because Michelle is joining me today, everyone, please meet Michelle Pack. She and I met through LinkedIn. Because Michelle is writing a book and I was interviewed to be in her book. And I just enjoyed the conversation so much and the synergy that we have that I invited her onto my show today. Thank you, Michelle, for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed our conversation so much as well and would like to continue it.
It's so awesome. Why don't you tell everybody about yourself, your whole background, what you're doing today, just so everybody's caught up with where I know we are, but they're not there yet.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I've actually had a really pretty interesting, people will tell me, and diverse background. I graduated with a degree in hotel and restaurant management of all things. I'm from San Francisco. I lived in Maui. Went to school in Vegas. I've been a realtor. I had a pet care business for a while, completely entrepreneurial, right? I mean, until I got hired with a company called Solar City, which then became Tesla. And then I had my experience in the corporate world for several years and worked my way up into, up to higher management within the organization, and really got a taste of being a woman in the corporate environment. And after getting a taste of that for several years, decided that I was definitely more of an entrepreneur and I could do more good through what I currently do, which is my title is financial services professional. But basically what I do is I empower professional women through financial literacy, because we just don't necessarily have that at our disposal as we're going through corporate America, and I'll never forget the time that I was upper management at Tesla, and a woman on my team comes to me and says, "Hey, Michelle, I need to figure out this 401k thing. Can you help me?" And I was like, nope. I don't understand it yet. And so that kind of propelled me later in life to get my own knowledge, and as doing so now I can help other women. So you're pretty much caught up with me.
That's awesome. I love how, my guests who listen to the podcast or view the podcast know that I always try to have people on that there's things that we are the same about, right? So the fact that you took that you were deficient at one point in your career to be able to do that self-sufficiently, and you admitted it and you moved ahead to solve that issue, and then ended up doing this as a service to help so many other women, which is so important because it's something that they don't pay attention to, honestly. And I'm not being disrespectful to our gender. I know I'm talking from personal opinion and experience. I know what happened in my lifetime where I wasn't always paying attention to some of my financial things. And then I was in jeopardy at one point back in 19 when I asked my ex-husband to leave. And so that was, and I knew before then there was a problem, because I started watching and I was like, oh my God. But then I was just so down in it that I couldn't get out of it. So Michelle, with that, what kind of advice would you give to a pre-CD in 19, another woman that's kind of going through something like that? What kind of, just off the top of your head, nothing, that's selling your secrets or anything, but just something I think that would be awesome to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, it's just get education, ask for help and get education. And I think that as women, there's two sides to what you were talking about. We trust that our partners are doing the right thing, and we maybe will leave that to them. Not all women. Again, this is just being generalized. This
right.
is some of what I experienced in northeastern Pennsylvania and in California, which is where I do most of my work. And then as women, we're so afraid sometimes, we're so embarrassed to ask for help or to say, like, I don't know. And it's okay. We are not raised that way. And so find someone you can talk to. It could be a parent, it could be an advisor, it could be a friend. Find someone else who has that knowledge, and don't be afraid to ask for that help. And every situation is different, and know that you're not alone. Know that it's okay to ask, and that you don't have to understand everything. You just have to know what you want, and then find someone that you trust to talk to.
Yeah. And I think too, don't be embarrassed. It's embarrassing, because here you're this powerhouse of a woman doing whatever it is you're doing, whether you're a mom raising 7 kids, 4 kids, 3, whatever, or you're an entrepreneur like us, or you, work in a restaurant, or you curate at a museum. There's a whole wide range of women here, folks. And we all are the same in the sense that we all go through these struggles, and we shouldn't be embarrassed by it. It's not about education here, folks. It's not. Yes, you have to become educated on this topic for sure, right? But it's not about where you graduated that leads you down this path. There is no lead here. You have to take the lead. Personally, I believe, in my opinion. I
agree with you 100%. Yeah, that embarrassment, I think, holds us back from doing so many things, right? And that's one of the reasons that this book that I'm writing is really about the self-made woman, and their attitudes towards building wealth, because there are themes that exist, and some of those themes are along the lines of, I made this money and maybe I lost it because I didn't know, I was afraid to ask. I didn't know what to do with it. I was embarrassed to, like you said, to be at this position and not have that knowledge. Well, the truth of the matter is, we are not taught that. And as women, we are not taught to talk about it, right? Mm-hmm. Ooh, she's talking about money. Ooh, don't let that stop you. Don't let that stop you from talking to someone that you trust, that you feel can help.
You're right.
I couldn't have said it any better. Yeah.
That's a fair point to say about the stigma aspect of it. Us talking about women. I know, I luckily don't have to do this anymore, but I used to, as a small company, CEO, when I was trying to collect money, people owed me money, for work I did properly against a contract. I'm solid when it comes to my negotiations. I've been negotiating for 20 some years now, legal language and stuff. So that's not an impediment for me. But what was an impediment for me, Michelle, was when I had to raise my hand and say, hey man, that invoice I sent you 6 months ago? Well, yeah, I kind of need that $49,000. And that was some of what was happening to me in 19 that I mentioned very briefly, was that I had a lot of people that owed me a lot of money. And I was trying to collect this money back. And it was, I had to sue people. I mean, it was craziness, but I felt uncomfortable. And that was my money that I rightfully earned.
Yeah.
Michelle, let's talk about that for a minute, because come on.
Well, let's talk about that. You just opened up a whole new psychological can of worms there. What does that go back to? Self-worth,
yes.
how we value ourselves. Gosh, as women, we're torn in so many directions, our value, right? Not just, it can be through family, through, how much money we make. There's so many different things, but if we don't have that core knowledge and belief that we are awesome universal spirits that can accomplish anything and deserve everything, that we may not ask for what we deserve. And
that's right.
Like you said, you do amazing work. You're incredibly talented. You're very good at what you do. And for you to feel uncomfortable asking to be paid for that, to feel less than, to not have your worth, to not know your worth. And I see that every day. If we even talk about that, the salary gender gap, right?
Oh, yeah.
Women are still only making 82 cents on the dollar to every, dollar that man makes. Somewhere around there. I'm not quoting facts, but somewhere around there, but it's still less. And why? Why are we not asking for more? Why do we not know our own worth? Why, what is that about?
Right. There's that whole It's kind of like what we were taught as children, when we go back and where our role was and what we were told and how we were told to do things. Some of that wasn't always necessarily taught to us as little girls, right? I don't know how your family environment was, but my dad was the breadwinner. So I was used to a male figure being the breadwinner. In my household, that was not the case. First off, prior to getting married, I was sole. That was it. It was just CD, right? And a dog. That was it. And so I was doing my thing, right? No issues. I didn't have to worry about, talking to people about money, my money that I made. And then when I got married, I still was the sole breadwinner of the family because he wasn't at the same level, which was okay. That wasn't the fall down that for the marriage. That was, people could still do that. I'm not saying don't do it. But what I'm saying is I also then felt uncomfortable with my own money. Everything was separate. It was my own money. And like, if I had money to go buy a pair of boots I wanted, I felt guilty because he couldn't go buy the Timbs he wanted to buy because he didn't make that kind of money. And then I felt like I needed to buy it because he wanted them. So it was like a vicious circle for me. And here I am, CEO of all these companies. All this is going on, raising our son, little guy. And this is all going on.
It's all going on. It all goes on. And like the stuff that goes on in our heads is amazing. That's why I'm so impressed with women. We're extraordinary. Just getting up every day and doing our life is extraordinary. You
yes.
consider it ordinary, but we are extraordinary. We really are. The things we do.
Absolutely. We have children. I mean, that alone, that's a huge undertaking to have to carry a child and then birth a child and however manner you do it. Again, whatever floats your boat, however it happens, it's big. It's a huge thing to do. And a lot of times we're the ones that take care of everybody, at the helm, at the top. And, that's how I am as a CEO. And I struggle. I don't know about you, but I struggle because I am very much a heart-centered person, heart-centered all the way through. Like, because I work to help patients, my whole thing. So, I am heart-centered. And what I struggle with is trying to protect my heart sometimes because people take advantage of your kindness for weakness. Exactly. And then also doing business as a heart-centered CEO because you have to be tough at times. So there's a balance. So what do you think about that?
I think actually that's I think that can be seen as both a challenge and a benefit to being a woman in business, right? Because yes, sometimes people will underestimate us and see our kindness as a weakness. And when they find out that it's not, that's a rude awakening for them and can be at least. And I think that we can touch people in different ways than men can because if we're heart-centered. I think that we can mentor people, understand them, show compassion, whereas maybe our male counterparts may not do that. They might. Again, I'm generalizing. I think it can be a strength and a challenge at the same time. But I think the strength of it outweighs it more than anything else because you really are able to affect people in a different way. You're able to touch people in a meaningful way. Mm-hmm. And they're going to understand, and they're going to admire and respect and understand you because you actually took the time to stop and say, who are you as a person? I care about you. Now, how do we align our goals so that we have our mission moves forward as a team in business, whatever that may be? So I see it as, personally, I see it as more of a strength than a weakness.
Thank you. And it's funny because I didn't do this on purpose, y'all. I had no intentions on doing this, but this is where our conversation took us. And I just published a magazine, article at CEO World Magazine. It came out last Friday. And I talk about being a leader using empathy and enveloping their team for all of their worth, listening to their ideas. All these things are what I talked about in my article because I see this lacking a lot of times in leadership. They say one thing, but they do another. Their actions speak louder than their voice does. And I was trying to do a call to action for that because I know you and I are aligned on this. We see it all the time in business where we're like, what's going on here? Why? We're in a really compromised situation still because we're stuck in a pandemic. Number one. Number two, mental health stats are at its high. Okay. They're horrible. They're very high right now. I know you and I have talked about this when I was being interviewed for your book. That's a detriment to us. Everything costs more nowadays, right? To do business, to buy cost of goods, just groceries. A pint of blueberries here in Chester Springs is $5 at Whole Foods. A pint of blueberries. When we were kids, they were $1. Like, I don't understand what's going on. We have all this going on, and then we're expected to still perform. Most of us work at home because we know we can. So now you're working around the clock, and we're not taking care of ourselves, and we're not taking care of our teams. We have to do better. We're going to burn out.
We do. And we have to put our own oxygen mask on first. We really
That's right.
do. I think that's such a huge lesson for people to remember, especially as women. We want to take care of everyone, right? And you can't do anything unless you're taking care of yourself. Really put that oxygen mask on first. Take some time for yourself. The self-love is huge.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's so important because if you don't take care of yourself, your temple, whatever you call your body, by whatever means every day, honestly, you've got to do this every day. You can't half-ass this and do it 2 days a week or whatever. Every day you have to make a commitment. If you can't commit to yourself, then who the hell are you going to be able to commit to at all?
Yeah. My 2 non-negotiables every morning are getting up, going to work out, whether I'm just walking, or whether it be, going to CrossFit class, doesn't matter. I'm moving my meat suit. And, and 2 is taking some time to use my mind and meditate and think about who I am, who I want to see myself as, and how I want to present myself to the world today, and how I want to serve, how I can increase my service and serve others better, because that's where I get my joy.
I swear to God, I apologize for exclaiming, but service, when you said service, boom, that was a trigger, right? So that's another thing that I'm going to want to write. I'm going to be writing another article this month about doing service from a leadership position. Like, we are here to serve others. So I swear you just played right into, because I wrote my head of PR yesterday, and I said, listen, I think I need to write an article about service because, I serve people all the time through my nonprofit, but I'm a Baha'i. That's my, my faith. And we believe in service, just like most religions do. And, service is integral. And my son, I teach him, he has to do service. He's been doing service since he was a little guy with my nonprofit, because I want him to understand we always give back. We give back. After we take care of ourselves first, we give back.
Yes. Yes. Service-based leadership. And that's how I've always viewed leadership, as servant-based, right? I am here to, once I take care of myself, then I can better serve those who I work with and work for, and things like that. Yeah. My team is who I work for. Right?
That is so awesome. Wow, this is so great. This is why I love, like, when I bring people on and it just goes like in a, like an authentic kind of zone here. Wow, how great. We got to talk about so many awesome things today so far. But you know what that means. We're getting close to the end. And I would love, if you wouldn't mind, Michelle, just kind of listing the top 3 positives, because we talked a lot about the positives, being a woman in leadership positions and what you do.
Yeah.
But also the negatives too. We talked about that too. Yeah. But I just want to make sure it's easy for our listeners and viewers to get it at the end, if you don't mind. Would you mind?
Not at all. And I'll kind of bullet point these. And I'd like to start with the negative, just because I like to end on a positive note, because I think there's positive in everything. But, first of all, I mentioned it earlier, we are still dealing with that gender salary gap. And that's a real thing that is still in corporate America, that I still see with my clients every day, that really still we need to address as a society. along those lines, the boys club still exists. And I'll never forget, I was up for this promotion several times and kept getting passed by people who are not as qualified that happened to be male. And I finally got the promotion, and the director looked at me and said, listen, I had to give you this because you gave me no choice. Like I could not give this to you because you performed so well for so many times. And it's still very real that we do tend to have to outperform men just to get that same recognition. And then unfortunately what that leads to is my third point that's negative about being a woman in business is we are viewed, strong leaders, strong women who are strong, we are not always viewed in the most positive manner.
Mm-mm.
And when men achieve that, it's like, oh, they're more attractive, they're powerful, they're more attractive, they're great. Women, men, not so much. It can be intimidating. So
aggressive.
That's struggle with every day. Yeah, and until we learn to rejoice and not compete, right? I like to tell women, I'm like, you can't compete with me because I want you to win too.
Right.
And until we all get that, like, I just don't see, that changing. And I really feel that's important. But again, the positive, that leads kind of into the positives where, because of being a woman, like we talked about earlier, we have an opportunity to support women, support not just women and men in a different way, in a more empathetic way, through understanding, through compassion, and still through strength, but adding those things in that we can really show that we care about people, and really support them in that way. I also mentioned earlier, I like sometimes when I'm underestimated, I find that to be a positive. You go into the situation and negotiation and they see you're like, oh, she's a sweet, sweet pretty blonde. Mm-hmm. And then you open your mouth and they're like, oh, wasn't expecting that. And then of course, I think you mentioned this earlier too, like you saw your father as the breadwinner, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of the positives of being a woman in the workplace is that we have financial independence, and that we don't have to be dependent upon anyone else for our financial needs, which allows us to be who we want to be, have the experiences that we want to have, and live the life that we want to lead without feeling that need to depend upon someone else.
Mm-hmm. And just being our true, authentic self. That's really what it is at the end of the day. We conform a lot to society as women, and it's because of expectations that are out there of us: leadership, mothering, friend, sister, wife, fiance, all these partner, colleague, employee. There's all these titles we wear, and it's just being our true, authentic self, I think, is really the ticket here. And like we were talking about earlier about the financial stability aspect, being brave enough to stand up and say, listen, I don't know. Can someone help me? That's all you have to do, is just say, I don't know. Can you help me, please? That's it.
Exactly.
It's that simple. And then you'll save yourself a whole mess of a burden, craziness.
Exactly.
Right?
Don't be afraid. Yeah. I mean, if you're afraid, don't be afraid. Like, just punch that terror barrier, right? Just
yes.
Don't be afraid. Just
That's ask, right.
Ask. Yes. People who love you and support you are out there. There's professionals out there. If you don't want to talk to your family and friends about your finances, there's lots of support. Use it.
Yes. And for everybody here that's listening or going to view or is viewing us, Michelle's information will be hyperlinked onto the podcast. So you can reach out to the episode. So you can reach out to Michelle yourself. She's a valuable asset. I strongly recommend that you do so, whether it's about financial independence or just being a pure woman in a leadership role. With her career and the glitter that she has enveloped in her life by doing all different types of roles, I think, people should reach out to you and ask for help, because you're there to help them.
Thank you. I am. I do feel joy in creating a safe space for people, to men and women, but especially women.
So thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you joining me. And as I always say at the end of all of our podcasts, remember, We are the same. I am Christina DiArcangelo.